want you to imagine a world where you are forced to own a landline. Now, some of you, especially the young ones, might be arching an eyebrow. A landline, you might ask? What is a landline? A landline is an actual phone that has a physical cable that runs from the street into your house, and you take a phone that's a giant block, basically, and you plug it into a little jack in the wall, okay? And now you can make phone calls from your house, from that one location in the house, unless you was bougie and you were able to get one of those wireless phones. Ooh, or going back a decade or two before that, one of the ones with a really, really long cord. Oh, yeah. I want you to imagine a world where you're forced to have one of those. And not the bougie wireless one, okay? I'm talking about the straight up, you are stuck to a chair sitting at your phone. Makes no sense. Literally doesn't. You have a cell phone. You're probably watching this on your cell phone right now. Your cell phone is a supercomputer in your pocket. It is amazing. There's no reason for you to have to double pay for a phone that you're barely gonna use, if ever use, okay? Odds are you might use like once or twice a year. We just don't need it anymore. We truly do not need landlines anymore. Now, why am I ranting about landlines? Because California just passed a law that mandates elementary classes to teach cursive. Landlines in your home are archaic and arbitrary. Cursive is archaic and arbitrary. We don't need either of them. The reason why cursive was created was to allow for the rapid transfer of information from mind or from the people around you to paper. The reason why is because cursive, when you're writing it, the script never leaves the paper unless you are dipping it in ink. And then you go back. That's it. Because the pen doesn't leave the paper very often, it makes it so that way you're able to transfer information to the paper much faster. So when you're writing large blocks of text, like, a constitution for a new country, for example, it makes sense to write it in cursive. That niche that cursive filled pretty much stopped being relevant in the late 1800s when typewriters began to come out. Now, at first, it's a lot cheaper to learn cursive and get some ink and a quill than it was to buy a giant bulky typewriter that broke probably 99% of the time. As typewriters become more ubiquitous, as they become more reliable, the need to learn cursive begins to drop. And the reason why is because when you're using a typewriter, when you're typing, you can, if you learn the skill, can type and share information much faster than even cursive. Okay? You can get those ideas onto paper, and here's where cursive is this is where cursive cannot defeat type at all, is the fact that depending on the typeface you use, the font you use, anyone can read it. Okay? Anyone can read what you type, so long as you don't choose some random weird font. If you're going with the standard ones like Times New Roman, Arial, Calibri, anyone can really read it. And then the final nail in the coffin of cursive is when we get personal computers with keyboards, and keyboards become cheaper, and personal computers become cheaper. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it just makes absolutely no sense to know cursive, like at all. It is not faster than a keyboard. It does not autocorrect as you're writing it. It doesn't give suggestions on how to improve. It doesn't make it easy for you to be able to pull up different words to vary your writing. So at this point, I'm pretty much just saying you don't need cursive. There's literally no point in it. Typing blows it out of the water in every single way imaginable. Now, notice what I'm saying need. If you want to learn cursive, have at it. I encourage you to take it as a art class or whatever. I don't care, okay? Whatever makes you happy, do it. The issue here isn't that you shouldn't ever learn cursive. It's that we should not be forcing our students to learn cursive, because it is truly using up the second most valuable resource that we as teachers have, and that is time. We do not have enough time, ladies and gentlemen, to be messing around with this stuff. It does not matter. Now, at this point, someone's going to say, okay, Smith, I can't argue with you. Well, they probably won't say that. They will argue with me, and they'll say I'm wrong no matter what. But they'll go, well, you know what? What about government documents? What about loan documents? What about business documents where you got to sign your name? Okay. I don't know if any of y'all have been signing documents much lately, but I have, okay? But not the way you're thinking with Cursive. In the last, it's October now, so in the last 10 months, I've probably signed dozens and dozens and dozens of documents. Out of all of those, only about 2 were not e-signed. When my wife handed me one of our retirement documents, and I looked at her, and I was like, what madness is this? Why for you give me paper to sign on? Are you trying to steal my essence, my soul, with this magical scribble you'd like me to do? And then she told me to sign the damn paper, and I was like, yes, mistress. And then I signed it. The reason why I was acting so goofy with her is because I'm a goof. But second, it's because all the other times, all that's ever happened is I get an email from DocuSign and it has me verify my identity with like last 4 of my social and then a couple of questions about my person, who I am, who I was, what I might not have done, what I might have done in the past, and then it just gives me the document, and then it shows me the document. I read the document, it's got little yellow flags on it that I push, and I have signed the document now. So when she gave me that physical piece of paper, I was like, what the heck? The company that we were working with that particular document required me to sign it, but it's just because they're behind the times. Another response is, well, Peter, they have to be able to, vote and sign, and nobody's going to know who they are if they can't use a cursive signature. That makes no sense either. Okay, when I get pulled over by a police officer, they don't then ask me as they're holding my ID, give me a cursive writing sample. I need to make sure your signatures match. Okay, they don't do that. They look at my picture, they look at my face, and they go, ugh, and then they say, okay, you are this guy. That's a form of biometrics, really. Okay, they're using the Mark 1 eyeball and the Mark 1 noodle in order to verify who I am. But ladies and gentlemen, that is honestly the way it's going for the most part. Okay, every time I go through the airport and I go up to the TSA agent and they want my boarding pass, they don't ask me to give a writing sample. They look at my face. They literally, the last time I went through, they took a picture of my face. Like, you are you, okay? We're moving away from the need for the cursive signatures. We're going towards biometrics. It is literally going to be facial recognition, fingerprint recognition, maybe even retinal at some point, though I don't think so. Most people are just kind of weird about getting too close to your eyeball. But that's the way we're going. Your states are probably going to, in the next 20 years or so, 10 years or so, going to start issuing you some kind of PIN code. Maybe it's going to be the last 4 of your social. And you'll provide that. And then if they need you to, they can reach out to you and verify, did you in fact vote in this election? One of the arguments I loved, it's to help students read the Constitution. It's in print. You can go look at the Constitution anytime you want. It's in print. Yes, they wrote it in cursive originally, but there are a lot of different copies out there in print, and they all say the same thing. The goal should be, hey, how can we prepare our students for the future that is coming, not the past that's already happened? All right, we can't keep doing that. It wastes time. If you take 10 minutes a day, ladies and gentlemen, to teach cursive instruction, to reinforce cursive instruction, there are 180 days in the school year. At 10 minutes a pop, you're looking at 1,800 minutes. Divided by 60 minutes a pop, okay? That is 30 hours. 30 hours that you are spending on cursive instruction. You are literally taking 30 hours from science, mathematics, reading comprehension, reading inference, reading fluency skills, from history. You're taking 30 hours from topics that are actually going to benefit your students and putting it towards something that is archaic, that no longer is relevant, and will likely not be relevant for those elementary students in California when they finally become adults and they're finally, buying homes and voting and doing all that fun stuff. Probably not going to be relevant for them. Or it'll be even less relevant than it is today. Probably the only valid-ish argument that supporters of cursive in the classroom have for some students who are dyslexic, okay, which is about 20% of the national population, so about 1 in 5 of your students, which if you got a class of 35 students, that's 7-ish, a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, may have dyslexia. Some of your students may benefit from cursive instruction. It's not a universal. Not all people who have dyslexia have the same type of dyslexia, so it's not going to work for all 7 of them. All right, so it's going to work for a smaller percentage of that. I'm not saying to not have cursive in a toolkit. The thing is, though, it shouldn't be in the gen ed teacher's toolkit. Cursive should be in the reading interventionist's toolkit. So when they pull that kid out who's been diagnosed with dyslexia, or after the CST team's like, hey, let's get this kid checked out, then that reading interventionist can pull that kid and then provide that in-depth one-on-one or very, very, very small group instruction with that as one of the tools to help with the dyslexia. But that's it. That's literally the only argument that moderately valid, okay? It's the only one that applies to kids today, but it really shouldn't be applied to the entire class. It should be applied to the small group that it's relevant for. So now at this point, you might be saying, well, Smith, you're so smart. What do you think we should be teaching them? Typing. 100% typing. Here's the thing, though. I am not so stuck in my ways that 5 years from now, when someone comes up to me and says, Smith, you and your typing, man, you're just really old, okay? Talk to text is perfect now. We don't need to type. You know what? I'll check it out. If it works pretty well, I'll be like, sure, cool. Cut the typing classes. All right? Cut the typing classes. Focus on talk to text. It wouldn't surprise me if 20 years from now, my kids come up to me like, Dad, stop talking about talk to text. It's all about thought to text now, man. Come on. Okay? It wouldn't surprise me because the technology is going to change. It's going to grow and it's going to adapt. It is not our job to try and drag the kids back on things like this. This is not, it's not like a huge social issue. There's no benefit to cursive anymore. The point of it was to quickly transfer information to a piece of paper. We have that with typing now. We have that with talk to text. You don't need cursive anymore. So stop taking time from math. Stop taking time from science and reading and writing and history classes and history topics and putting it towards things that just do not matter. So I understand if you're trying to teach cursive, it's coming from a good place, okay? But genuinely, honestly, it's not a skill they need anymore. Nobody's out there saying, well, ladies and gentlemen, kids these days just aren't tough enough. We really need to get them, back to nature, experiencing the world around them. That's why I say that in medicine, we should be mainstreaming leeches once again. Let's do this, yeah! And no one else is following that up with, oh, calculators are so terrible. We should get rid of them and bring back the abacus. We all know that that isn't correct. We all know that that's not relevant today. Good luck trying to design the phone you're using right now using an abacus. It might be possible. It's not going to be efficient. Just like how writing papers and sharing information is possible with cursive, but it's not efficient. We have better methods today, ladies and gentlemen. Just like how your cell phone is a much better way of communicating than a landline phone in your house. I'm not saying there isn't a place for a landline phone, but that place is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller by the year. Okay? It makes sense to get rid of cursive instruction. If you want to have electives for it, have electives for it. Okay? In high school, I don't care. I really don't care. It's an elective, go for it. But we need to stop taking time away from social studies, science, mathematics, and reading, and writing. Okay? We got to stop taking away. And writing is typing, by the way. All right, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you like, though I have a sneaking suspicion some of you are going to be smashing the dislike one. Oh, and for all of you that are ride or die about cursive, I am very much looking forward to all of your angry, typed responses in the comments below.